Welcome to the GTN show. We are going big on the upcoming races, and we're going to be taking a closer look at the stellar field for the Oceanside 70.3 this weekend, as well as the first Ironman of the season in South Africa.
Yeah, the racing is heating up, and so is the trash talking. Joe Skipper had some choice words to say about some of his competitors in a recent interview at the Ironman World Champs coming up soon. We've also got all your tech news, reacts, and a dog-friendly parkrun.
All right, like we said, we are talking a lot about racing this week, and to kick things off from what we have spotted online, Daniela Ryf is on her way to the US. Well, she might even be there by now, but this post I saw, she's racing is just around the corner. I'm heading to the US soon. Excited to be on the start line for 70.3 Oceanside before the big dance at the Ironman Worlds in St. George. And I imagine there's going to be quite a lot of athletes that are going to go and stay and do both, won't they?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a migration to America at this time of year now. Yeah. Normally it would be like hopping into Oceanside and then back
getting
to
out
your
as soon as
base.
you can,
Yeah, but this time everyone's going to stay over that side and get ready for St. George, which is in 38 days, I think.
Yeah, we'll be catching them up at some point.
Pretty close. Yeah, we're getting pretty excited about it, and so are a few others. Looking though at last week's racing, we had this from the PTO, which is an update on their rankings, and Kat Matthews, with her performance at Lanzarote last week, has the highest scoring points race of the year so far, with 104.92 that she got. It bumped her up the rankings from 9th to 6th. So yeah, she's moving up the rankings. But like we just said, the first iron distance race of the year is only happening this week. Yeah. So that's probably why she's got the highest points so
I mean, it's quite very well deserved. But interestingly, I think it was Kat or her husband was saying how she's 6th in the world, but she still isn't going to get automatic qualification into Team Europe.
No, yeah, it's competitive for the Collins Cup this year. But she's got plenty of time to get some more points, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Racing, again, looking at last weekend, there was the challenge in Puerto Varas, which we covered in the show. Well, Laura Siddall finished second there, and we talked about that in the results, but she's since then put up a post just explaining some of her performance, and the bit that caught her eye was, well, just logistic issues. And I know that you guys, if you travel with bikes, it is stressful. Well, I think Laura had it at the extreme. She said her bike didn't arrive until 7 p.m. the night before the race. However, without the aero bars, I mean, somehow it says the airline had removed them from the bag and forgotten to put them back. I mean, I don't even know why they'd removed them in the first place and then not put them back. Amazingly, bizarre. They were found. I mean, you would think, well, you've said goodbye to your aero bars, wouldn't you? But they were found. So at 30 minutes past midnight on race day, her and her bike were ready to race. And she did actually, there was someone who was going to lend her bike very kindly, who was also racing, was then going to give up his race. Someone called Roberto, but kindly, they both got to do it.
Yeah, how kind of him to lend her his bike. That's amazing. Next up, we had this, also from Challenge Puerto Varas. Well, the photo is, and it's Sam Long saying, "I will race at Challenge Roth." He's put that banner on his Instagram. They've just released the whole Roth field, which we'll get into a bit later. But Sam Long saying that he's going to race it, and he followed that up with another post saying that he will be racing Roth and not Kona this year. So Roth will be his only full distance race, whereafter he will only focus on the 70.3 distance, which is interesting to see. I mean, he was second in the World Champs at 70.3 so
he's doing St. George full World Champs.
Yes, and then he's doing Roth,
and then he's
calling quits on long course for the year, and then he's going to focus only on 70.3 for the rest of the year, saying that that's just too much full racing in 1 year, which is probably pretty smart, to be honest, but it does mean he won't be at Kona.
Yeah, I mean, it is wise, but I wonder if he'll still feel happy with that, depending on how he performs in St. George.
We could see him changing his mind later on in the season, depending on how well Roth and St. George goes.
Yeah. Well, go on.
Yeah, and then we had this from, Joe Skipper's no stranger to smack talk. He says it how it is, doesn't he?
Well, how he thinks it is.
Well, yeah, exactly. He had this very interesting interview, which you can go read yourself on 220 Triathlon, but he didn't pull any punches. Basically, he was having a bit of a go at his Norwegian competitors and saying, looking at the Ironman performances last year, I don't understand why everyone was raving about Gustav in Florida. He goes on to describe why, and he compares course distances with some of his races and various other races, and why it was not near as impressive as his time might have showed from Gustav, which I suppose is fair in a way, but it's pretty bold.
I mean, he's backing it up with some data, but there's a lot, he's saying his wattage, but then obviously they're different athletes, different positions, different weights, so you can't just go by the numbers on the computer screen, which is interesting. But he also then has a bit of a punch at Christian, which is bold, I feel.
He does, yeah. He actually goes into their swim too, and their swim strength. He says that Gustav at 70.3 Worlds was a minute down against Jan Frodeno and Alistair Brownlee. So in St. George, there's no ways he's going to make the front pack. He then carries on and says that it's 50-50 whether Christian makes that front pack. I mean, it's pretty much 100-0 whether Joe makes that front pack. But then he goes on to say that it's not about riding loads of watts and towing people around. It's about knowing when to put the power down. He thinks St. George is all going to come down to tactics, and it's going to be a very tactical race, and he doesn't think that the Norwegians are going to be tactically astute enough to race against the big boys. I think that's a very bold claim.
It is.
But we're going to have a pretty good idea of what kind of form Joe is in, because he's on the start line for Ironman South Africa this weekend. So we'll see what kind of form he's in.
Yeah, well, he also mentions has a little go at Lionel at some point in the article, so I would recommend going and checking it out. On to Tri News now, and well, we've got a positive story to start with because we have news of money being pumped into triathlon. It is the PTO that are benefiting this time. Equity, a global venture capital investor, are putting some unknown sum, but I imagine it's a fair amount when we're talking about the PTO, into the brand. And according to Equity, the reason for the investment is the fastest growing sports discipline in the world is to be able to access a highly desirable yet difficult to reach consumer by providing a distribution platform to companies developing innovative health, wellness and medical tech products. Yeah,
they come on board alongside Sir Michael Moritz, who was already investing in the PTO through his Sequoia Capital, and that's obviously been most of the money so far behind the PTO. So it's quite a vote of confidence for the PTO that there's another venture capitalist firm who's getting on board and going, well, actually, this is well worth investing in. So that's pretty exciting news. Commenting on the investment, Charles Adama, the executive chairman for the PTO, said, triathlon itself is recognised as a global brand for unwavering dedication, ultimate endeavour, unstoppable passion and tremendous achievement. Our PTO professionals provide an inspiration for all those who face challenges in their lives and want to overcome obstacles and achieve their potential. We believe that Equity's healthcare expertise will assist in our goal of creating more health and wellness conscious community. It's pretty exciting because, like I say, it's a big vote of confidence for what the PTO is doing with the sport. Obviously, these venture capitalists are coming on board, looking at it and going, we can see a big future in this domain, which is pretty exciting for triathlon.
We've got news of a new event looking ahead to 2024 now. World Triathlon have announced their World Multisport Championships are going to be held in the Australian city of Townsville. It's going to be the 10-day format, so everything is going to be back together, because you might remember we were talking about it just last week. Yeah,
this year they're splitting it into two separate weekends, one in Romania and one alongside the Collins Cup in Slovakia later this year. Next year, the whole 10-day format is going to be in Ibiza, which will be, well, bit of a party. And then the following year, we've just announced it'll be in Townsville in Australia. Again, the full 10-day format with the whole multi-sport championship festival. Okay, and now we move on to a little bit of light-hearted news, I suppose, although he doesn't really think it's light-hearted. This is the parkrun is banning you from running with a dog with a lead around your waist. Basically, those elasticated leads that you wear around your waist so your dog can run side by side with you while you run a park run are now banned in park runs. You have to use a short handheld leash. A local park run organizer has taken umbrage with this. He says it's not more dangerous. In fact, holding it in your hand is more dangerous. So what he's going to do is start what he calls the bark run, which will go an hour before the park run, and you can bring your dog and wear a waist harness. We thought it was a little bit funny. I mean, he's got 2,500 people supporting him on his Facebook page already. So maybe it will become a thing, or maybe park run will just incorporate it into theirs and they can have a dog run before the park run. Either way, we don't think it's a really big issue in the world, but this guy does, and he's not very happy with it.
At least he's doing something proactive and kind of going and doing his own thing with some other dogs, and just think anything that encourages people to get out and go running is great. So not quite sure he's solving the problem, but he's going around it, isn't he? Anyway, on to sort of more international news, I think. We've teased a little bit of the races coming up, and Roth is this summer, and the pros are starting to come out and shout about it when the ones who are racing. We've got three returning champions. Sorry, not defending. Can't have three defending champions, can you? We've got Patrick Lange, Anne Haug and Sebastian Kienle are all coming back to race. All Germans racing in their home country. We've seen Patrick Lange has been recovering from his injury, but so he's skipping Worlds, so I guess he'll be really focusing on Roth with that in mind. And Kienle just recently pulled out of a race, didn't he, because he'd been injured, so it's going to be interesting interested to see how their prep goes. And obviously Sam Long, we've talked about already.
Yeah, Sam Long just announcing that he's throwing his hat in that ring. He says that the Europeans keep coming and taking trophies from America, so he's going to do the opposite. Well, we'll see. It's going to be an exciting race. 3 previous Ironman world champions there in the German format, and then obviously the Sam Long also competing. It's going to be a stacked field, and they announced that traditionally 100 days before the event, so you know that event's coming up soon.
Okay, well, also on the women's field, just quickly, because Anne Haug, obviously, but we've got likes of Fenella Langridge and Laura Siddall, and I imagine there might be more joining that list. But whether Roth is going to sort of fall, have a little bit of an issue just because there's 2 world championships as well.
Well, yeah, you would
get
think
a
maybe
slight dilution in
you get
the
a diluted
quality.
field, but I mean they've already got 3 world champions and Sam Long signing up, so maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, we have been talking about all the racing coming up, and it's starting with a big one this weekend. We're going to see some form from a few of the athletes for the first time, and that is at Oceanside 70.3, and it is a stacked field. And you can actually watch this one live because for the first time, Outside TV will be broadcasting it live on their website. They're a new broadcast partner of Ironman, and it's the first time, so we'll see what kind of coverage they bring. But regardless, it's going to be some hot racing. The fields are absolutely stacked.
Yeah, well, to start with, you've got the 2 returning champions who are, by the looks of things, in good form. Paula Finley from the women's side and Ben Canute. He's recently put a post saying how much he loves racing in front of a home crowd, and he's got success there. And this is the real test, isn't it, for them to sort of show their cards. And it's almost a little bit of like a showboating thing of like putting your cards down saying, this is where I'm at ahead of the world. So obviously, there's a few 70.3 specialists in the women's field, for example. We've got Holly Lawrence and Ashley Gentle, who's only just moved up to the distance. It's going to be interesting to see those guys. Daniela Reif as well. I think all eyes are going to be on her. She's got a little bit of a point to prove. It's been a sort of under par season last year with what she's been working on over the winter.
Yeah, it's a stacked field though, because there's also Taylor Knibb, who gave a run for her money
at her against Danielle.
Cup. I think a lot of the girls have a lot to prove here, and I definitely wouldn't say that the defending champions are necessarily the favourites for this. It's going to be hard to call on the women's side and the men's side. On the men's side, equally stacked. You've got Sam Appleton, Lionel Sanders, Sam Long, Rudy von Berg finally making his return after quite a long illness. Matt Hansen, and then the big name, Alistair Brownlee. Yeah, so we're going to see what kind of form he has leading into St. George.
We have not seen anything from him for so long, have we?
To be honest, even the result of this is not that important, but seeing how these guys perform is a pretty good yardstick for the upcoming St. George, which is, like we said earlier, not in too many days. It's 38 days away, I think, after this race. So yeah, it's one of those first times we can see how fit these guys are and maybe get a bit of a teaser for Ironman St. George World Champs.
And you touching on there, it's not just the numbers. It'll be interesting to see if some of them are still specifically, working on something, or whether they've tapered for this, because whether it fits in right for St. George.
Yeah, we were also talking about them migrating to the US, and a lot of athletes are using this as a kind of stepping stone. Fly over to the US, get yourself into form and into racing by doing an event, and then you can go off and do one last training camp to work on whatever is not quite firing right. One of those athletes doing that is Dave McNamee, who posted that he's heading over. He had a bit of a failed start to the season last week at Lanzarote 70.3, did not go his way, but he's travelling over to 70.3 Oceanside, the 12-hour flight, he said. He said he got an aisle seat, so it's basically business class, right? And the life of a pro athlete. So yeah, he's flying over this week, getting ready for Oceanside 70.3.
Oh, and also, but if anyone knows of any places for good pie, apparently you need to let David McNamee know, just in case.
I'm sure he can find some good pie to eat, and pancakes. He was looking for that for breakfast. Paula Finley's on her way there. She's enjoying California, but she says Flynn is not so sure about California yet. He's a bit homesick, maybe. Rudy von Berg is also coming in hot to Oceanside 70.3. Quite a few posts on social media.
It's all the talk, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's
social
exciting.
media is hotting up as fast as the racing is hotting up. It's quite exciting.
I wonder if it'll be a bit quieter next Monday.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will not be posting on social media.
And podiums will be a
and then
bit
the ones
quieter.
on podium will be very noisy. Yeah, exactly. Well, another race we've got coming up this weekend is Ironman South Africa, which we also spoke about, and that's going to be the first Ironman of the year. In fact, the first Iron distance of the year. There has not been any. Normally we would have had Challenger Wanaka, we would have had Ironman New Zealand, and those have not happened this year. So this is literally the first full distance event of the year. And again, looking to see what kind of form people are in going into the season.
Yeah, but it's interesting, not obviously that many athletes are choosing to race because it is a long distance and it takes so much out of you. I mean,
it's
I'm
a
excited,
long way from St George.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Susie Cheetham return because she's been off for quite a while. She's had a baby, and she's had various injuries and COVID, and we know that she loves that race and she's got a great track record. So excited to see that. Who else are you on the women's side excited to watch?
Daniela Blumenau also making a bit of a comeback, so hopefully we'll see her in some kind of form. It's really hard to pick on the women's side. In fact, it's equally hard to pick on the men's side. We do have a previous champion there, Carl Buckingham from South Africa, also Matt Troutman from South Africa, who'll be looking to seal his South African home race. And then Brad Weiss, who came ninth in Nice at the 70.3 World Champs, is making his Ironman debut. So that's 3 South Africans to watch. Ooh. But I think my favourite for that race is the trash-talking Joe Skipper, who's travelled out there.
I mean, he's got to be feeling good at the moment to talk like that, hasn't he?
Yeah, you would think so. He wouldn't just be talking like that if he wasn't feeling pretty fit. So yeah, we'll see how they go this weekend. Plenty of triathlon racing to watch. There's another big race happening this weekend, isn't there, Heather?
There is, yes. There is the women's relay at Challenge Salou. I mean, there is also Challenge Salou. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But there is the pro race, the 70.3 just south of Barcelona. And we've got Anne Hag racing again just 2 weeks after Lanzarote, so she's sort of packing it in at the moment. She's going to be up against Lisa Norden, who I think won it previously a couple of years ago. We've got Fenella Langridge and a pretty strong women's field.
Yeah, India Lee's on there too. So
well spotted.
Strong field. And then on the men's side also, Christian Herkenhaug, Sam Ledlow, Dennis Chevrot. There's quite a few big names there, but what we're really interested in is a certain relay that Heather mentioned.
Well, yes, so I, along with 2 other girls, Lizzie and Jo, who will be introduced to you guys soon when we do this video, we are attempting to beat those pros. So the fact that Anne Hag is on the start line, Lisa Norden, has made me a little bit more nervous.
That would be, yeah.
I am just doing the swimming though, so I get the shortest portion, which is quite nice.
Yeah, but you can't get them started on the back foot though.
I know, and yeah, well, we are starting. All right, yeah, sorry. But also, the relay start behind the age group women, so we've got quite a lot of work to do. We're obviously trying to beat the pros on the clock, not in real life, because we'd have to like catch them up by half an hour, which is not going to happen. But I'm quite excited just to head out to a real race. And
so, what time are we going for?
Well, we were originally being really ambitious and saying sub 4. Might be a bit ambitious.
Oh, okay.
But we'll see. We're gonna just give it everything. The first target is to beat the pros. If we get a sub 4 in the process, then even better.
Well, we'll wish Heather a lot of luck for her race this weekend. She's making a whole video of how it goes and how the relay goes. So stay tuned to the channel for more on that coming up in the next few weeks. And now it's time for What the Tech. And we have this from Garmin. They have announced some new motion plates for their Tax Neo, Neo 2 and Neo 2T. And basically they just fit on the bottom of the feet. So the Tax Neo motion plates are easy to mount plates. Now, we've all seen these motion rocker plates, those things that you mount a whole, it's basically a massive skateboard that you mount your whole turbo trainer to, and then it can move laterally and forward and back. So the Tax already goes left and right. So now this motion feet, basically what they clip on the bottom, and they can give you 2 inches of forward-backward movement to make it feel more like you're riding on the road. They're really easy to click on, and rather than the £800 or $800 that you'd spend on a full kicker plate, these are $299, and basically they click on in about 3 seconds. You can just kind of turn it upside down, click on these feet, and you've got some motion that makes it feel more like the real world. Pretty cool idea.
Yeah, it's cool, but I feel like it maybe is aimed at the southern hemisphere because we're going into summer. You know.
Oh yeah, well.
Pain Cave's been done or not?
No, Pain Cave is very much current. It's very much
current. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Okay, before we get to Caption Competition, just a reminder to send us all of your triathlon-related stuff, photos, videos, funny stories, anything that happened. This week, there's a whole bunch of racing, so you've got plenty of stuff to send us for our pinboard next week. But now it's time to move on with the Caption Competition. Yeah, well, we had this photo last week of a couple of silhouettes pointing their way, and our first suggestion comes from Fergal Garcia. A good swim points the way to victory. Ah, yeah, good one. Savage Pro says Team Silo wetsuits. Oh,
yeah, we can always rely on Savage Pro, can't we? He comes up with some good ones.
Good puns.
Daniel Gibson, first one to round the buoy, gets $100.
Oh, Yeah. Aaron Hyman says, and you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. Just kidding, guys. Sorry for the distraction. Let's go, get going.
like the randomness of that one. Len Whitrock, try like an Egyptian.
Oh, yeah. And our winner this week, Peter Stoddard, who he says, what's the point? There's not enough water to swim. I see what he did there. What's the point?
It's a witty one.
Oh, get hold of us, and you can get to cap out to you for winning that one. This week, we have this image, which is from Ironman South Africa, which is coming up this weekend, so we thought it was fitting. Someone's wife is running next to him, so I'll have a go. If I outrun you in these sandals, I'm selling your bike.
Well, that's actually not bad, James. I quite like it, but I want to see if you guys can do any better. I mean, James got enough swim caps, so it's your turn. Make sure you leave your suggestions in the comments section below. And before we go, we've got, well, the second part of the pain cave. And apparently the weather's about to get bad, so you might be wanting to get a pain cave. That's if you're in the UK. Part 2, what have we got to look forward to, James?
Oh, yeah, a whole bunch of fitting it out. Basically, part 1, you can go watch that now, was basically turning it into a nice room to build a pain cave. Now we're going to fit it out with all the Wahoo stuff, the kickers and everything. So tune in for that this weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. We've also got a video looking at the relative energy deficiency in sport, known as Red S. But you're going to have to wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, head over to the GTN shop right now if you're interested in any of our merchandise. The kit that you see us wearing in the videos is available on there. And then if you're looking for something to watch right now, like we just said, you can watch the first episode of my Pain Cave build, which came out this past weekend. I'm turning my garage into the ultimate triathlon pain cave. Or if you're not interested in that, you can watch how to run 5Ks in sub 25 minutes.